What does a great cup of coffee taste like? This might seem like a strange question, but it's one a surprising number of people ask me. They hear other people talking about these incredible cups of coffee, and they can't help but wonder, is what I'm drinking great?
Two drinks can look almost identical in the cup and taste like they belong in completely different food groups. One drink's like dessert, the other one strips the enamel off your teeth. And one drink on this list can legally get you close to the FDA's entire daily caffeine limit before you've finished it. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what you're actually ordering and what it's supposed to feel like in your mouth before you even take the first sip. Welcome to Food Exposition. Today, 10 coffee drinks, what they actually taste like, and how much caffeine is really in each one. Let's start with the shot. Everything else on this list is hiding underneath. First, espresso. It hits thick and syrupy, almost chewable, with a layer of golden brown crema on top that coats your lips before the coffee even touches your tongue. The first half second is bitter and sharp, then it rounds out into something almost like burnt caramel, and it's gone in 2 or 3 sips, leaving a dry, roasted aftertaste at the back of your throat that lingers for minutes. It exists because an Italian mechanic named Luigi Bezzera patented a pressurized brewing machine in 1901, and the name literally means fast. 1 ounce, about 63 milligrams of caffeine. Order almost anything else on a coffee shop menu and you're really just ordering this dressed up. Dress it up with steamed milk and the whole mouthfeel changes completely. Second, cappuccino. You have to push your lip through an inch of thick, pillowy foam before you even reach liquid, and what's underneath is warm rather than hot, rounder than espresso, the bitterness cut just enough that it stops fighting you. The name comes from Capuchin friars, whose brown hooded robes match the color of coffee lightened with milk, a comparison people were making as far back as 1600s Vienna. Order a short cappuccino at most coffee shops, and you're getting 1 shot and about 75 milligrams of caffeine, same as the espresso, just wearing a much softer coat. Add more milk and less foam, and you get the drink most people actually mean when they say coffee. Third, the latte. This one drinks almost like dessert, silky, warm, barely any bitterness left, milk doing most of the talking with the espresso, just adding color and a little edge underneath. Latte is simply Italian for milk, and the version that took over American coffee shops got normalized in Seattle in the 1980s. It's built on the same shot as a cappuccino, so the caffeine is nearly identical, roughly 75 to 150 milligrams depending on size. The milk changes the experience completely without changing the buzz at all. Now take that same shot and barely dilute it at all, and you get a drink most people have never actually had, even if they've ordered one. Fourth, the macchiato. Traditionally, this is almost pure espresso hit with just a small dollop of foam, so your first taste is straight up sharp and intense, and the foam only softens the very last bit at the back of your throat. Macchiato means stained in Italian. Espresso stained with milk, not the other way around. Here's what catches people off guard. The caramel macchiato most chains sell today is built almost backwards, vanilla syrup and milk first. So the first few sips taste like a coffee-flavored dessert, and the espresso only shows up on top at the end. Same name, almost the opposite drink. That one's confusing by name. The next one has a backstory that might not even be real. Fifth, the Americano. It looks like drip coffee, but it drinks thinner and sharper with a slightly ashy edge that regular drip doesn't have because it's really just diluted espresso rather than coffee brewed slow from the start. The popular story says American soldiers in Italy during World War II found espresso too strong and asked for it watered down. Cute story. The earliest confirmed print use of Caffè Americano actually shows up in a 1964 newspaper, decades after the war supposedly named it. Caffeine tracks with shot count, anywhere from about 75 milligrams up past 200 for a larger pour. That one's stretched with hot water. The next one gets its smoothness from waiting, not heat. Sixth, cold brew. It's almost sweet without any sugar added. Smooth all the way down with none of the sharp acidity hot coffee has. It barely feels strong going down, which is exactly what makes it dangerous. Dutch traders brought a cold steeping method to Kyoto, Japan back in the 1600s, and the modern American version traces to 1964 when an engineer named Todd Simpson brought the idea back from a trip to Peru. Steeping grounds in cold water for up to 24 hours pulls out more caffeine than hot brewing does. A 12-ounce serving commonly runs 150 to over 200 milligrams more than the same size cup of drip, even though it tastes like it's doing less. Cold brew hides its strength. The next drink has two countries still arguing over who invented it. Seventh, the flat white. Denser and silkier than a latte, with almost no foam, so every sip tastes like actual coffee instead of mostly milk. Velvety rather than fluffy. Australia and New Zealand both claim to have invented it in the 1980s, and neither one has ever backed down. It didn't show up on major U.S. chain menus until the mid-2000s. It's built on ristretto, a shorter, more concentrated shot, so it often carries more caffeine than a same-size latte, commonly around 130 to 200 milligrams. That's still built for a coffee shop. The next one was built for a cold, miserable airport in Ireland. Eighth, Irish coffee. The first taste is cold, sweet cream, then whiskey and hot coffee hit right underneath it, sipped through the cream rather than stirred in. Warm and boozy on top of bitter and sharp below. In 1943, a flight full of frozen, delayed transatlantic passengers turned back after a brutal storm and landed at Foynes Airport in Ireland. Chef Joe Sheridan, working with whatever he had on hand, warmed a batch of coffee, added a shot of whiskey, and floated cream on top. When one exhausted passenger asked if it was Brazilian coffee, Sheridan reportedly said no, that's Irish coffee, and the name stuck on the spot. It stayed a regional secret for almost a decade until a San Francisco travel writer brought the recipe home in 1952 and talked a local cafe into serving it, a cafe that still pours thousands of them a year. The whiskey adds plenty of warmth. It doesn't add a single milligram of caffeine. That one's less than a century old. The next one is the oldest way of making coffee still poured every day, anywhere in the world. Ninth, Turkish coffee. Thick, almost muddy, packed into a cup the size of an espresso shot, with the grounds left right in the liquid, so your very last sip is basically coffee silt. Strong, intense, and nothing like it's been filtered at any point. It's brewed by boiling ultrafine grounds directly in a small copper pot called a sezve, a tradition tracing back to the 16th century Ottoman Empire. In 2013, UNESCO added it to its list of protected cultural traditions, in part because of the ritual around it, including reading the leftover grounds to tell a person's fortune. Despite the intensity, the tiny serving size keeps total caffeine roughly in line with a shot of espresso. That's the oldest drink on this list. And last, the one drink on this whole list built to remove the thing every other one is chasing. 10th, decaf. It tastes almost identical to regular coffee, just slightly flatter, missing that sharp, jittery edge caffeine gives a cup. All the ritual, none of the buzz. Most decaf is processed with a chemical solvent called methylene chloride, permitted by the FDA under Federal Rule 21 CFR 173.255, capped at 10 parts per million in the coffee you actually drink. An 8-ounce cup still carries about 2 to 3 milligrams of caffeine. Not zero, just close enough that you won't feel it. 10 drinks, 1 shot of espresso underneath most of them, tasting completely different depending on what gets added and how much. A cappuccino and a latte are the same drink wearing different amounts of milk. A real macchiato is nothing like what most chains sell under that name. Cold brew hides its strength, and Turkish coffee is the oldest method still in daily use anywhere on Earth. And decaf was never actually caffeine-free, just close to it. If this changes how you order your next cup, that's exactly what this channel is for. Hit subscribe if you want more of these, because next time we're going through every major energy drink on the shelf, and the caffeine numbers get a lot more surprising. See you in the next one.